British are coming, the British are coming. The British are coming, the British are coming.
The British are coming? Who are the British and why are they coming? Why are y'all hollering like that? Should I be scared that the British are coming?
Now hold on just a second. Paul Revere is famous for saying the British are coming, but there's also a lot more to know about Paul Revere. Let's look at some of the other things.
Paul Revere was most likely born in late December of 1734. Sometimes his birthday is mistakenly stated as January 1st, 1735, which was actually the day he was baptized. Here are two photos of Paul Revere. The British are coming! The British are coming!
Whoa, hold your horses. It's not time for the midnight ride yet.
Paul Revere had two wives, Sarah and Rachel. He married Sarah first in 1757. They had 8 children. She died in May of 1773. He married Rachel in October 1773, and they had 8 children.
That dog talks way too slow. We need to hurry this story along.
I know the next part of this story. I can speed this story along. Paul Revere worked as a dentist, a silversmith, a copper plate engraver, and he even illustrated for books and magazines. He's famous for his political drawings of cartoons. He was also a very successful businessman. He sold hardware and home goods, and by the end of his career, he was very, very wealthy. I know all this stuff about Paul Revere, but I still don't know why the British are coming.
Okay, now we're ready for the story of the famous ride, and it all began with 2 lanterns.
British march by land or sea from the town tonight. Hang a lantern aloft in the belfry arch of the North Church Tower as a signal light. 1 if by land or 2 if by sea, and I on the opposite shore will be, ready to ride and spread the alarm through every Middlesex village and farm, for the country folk to be up and to arm.
Was it 1 lantern or 2 lanterns? Did they come by land or did they come by sea?
Somber and still, and lo, as he looks on the belfry's height, a glimmer, and then a gleam of light. That would be yours truly. He springs to the saddle, the bridle he turns, but lingers and gazes till full in his sight a second lamp in the belfry burns.
The British are coming! The British are coming! The British are coming! The British are coming!
Oh no! The British are coming! Where's Paul Revere?
If by land or 2 if by sea.
A hurry of whoos in a village street, a shape in the moonlight, a bulk in the dark, and beneath from the pebbles in passing a spark, struck out by a steed flying fearless and fleet.
The British are coming!
I know I tell my story slow, but here's the rest of the story. The British turned away and fled at the Old North Bridge because they were met by several hundred colonists. Here's a picture of the Old North Bridge.
Oh my! This story is starting to sound familiar! I think I know this story! Is this the one with the gun? With the gun that the shot was heard round the world? Is that true? Can that even happen? That somebody can hear a gun all the way around the world? Now that is one silly girl. She's starting to sound like Opie from the Andy Griffith Show and his friends who just didn't believe about one gun that could fire a shot to be heard round the world.
History.
Yeah?
Yeah, they had the craziest gun.
What gun?
Oh, they had a gun that fired a shot that was heard clear around the world.
Yeah, come on, Andy. Tell us about that gun. We want to hear the story about that gun.
What?
What kind of gun?
What kind of gun what?
You know what kind of gun? The kind of gun that could fire a shot that could be heard clear around the world. Tell us about
It was a part of England, and we wasn't getting along with them too good. In fact, we was thinking about breaking away and starting our own country. But the king over there in England, he says, you do that, and I'm going to send my redcoats. They was British soldiers, and he was going to send them over here to whip us. Oh, the nerve! And he says, you better think about that thing. Well, so your great-great-great-great-great-great-granddaddies all got together, you know, to think about it. And they argued about it back and forth a while. And finally one of them says, let's do it. Let's start our own country. Somebody says, how you do that? Says, I don't know. Says, I reckon you just start. Says, what do we call it? Says, let's call it the United States of America.
That was a good name.
Yeah. Now, about that time, up in Boston, Massachusetts, there's a fellow living up there named Paul Revere. And he was a pretty good old fellow. Just as poor as Job's turkey, but he was a pretty good old fellow. And he owned a real good old horse named Nellie. Now, Paul, he was wandering around the streets up there one night, and he come up on a friend of his. And he says, howdy, what's new? His friend says, what's new? Says, the British is coming. That's what's new. What's the matter with thee? And Paul says, you're kidding. He says, it's a fact. Says, I just heard it from an Indian. And you know them Indians, they keep their ears to the ground. And Paul says, do the folks know about this? Fellow says, I just heard about it myself. And Paul says, well, what we going to do? And fellow says, I'm getting out of town. And Paul says, well, we got to spread the word. He says, you spread it. I'm getting out of town. Well, Paul, he didn't know what to do. But he knew he had to do something. Now, it happened that they had planned, if the British was ever to come over here, that they'd put a light up in this high church steeple. And Paul went down there to look. And sure enough, there was the light, burning brighter than day. Well, Paul, he jumped on his old horse and he lit out. He didn't know where he was going, but he knew he had to go somewhere. Oh, I wish you could have seen it. That old horse with his ears laid back and his nostrils wide open, was sucking in wind like a jet engine, feet pounding on them cobblestones, striking off sparks. Paul holding on for dear life and hollering at the top of his lungs. He says, the British is coming, the British is coming. Get you a gun, we gonna have us a revolution. And them farmers come a-piling out of the hay like bees out of a beehive. Minutemen, they's called. They grabbed their squirrel guns.
What's Minutemen?
Minutemen? There's fellas that had to be ready at a minute's notice. And when Paul comes screeching down the road that way, they grabbed their guns and hid out behind the weeds and walls and trees and everywhere. And when the British come prancing along, all dressed up in their red suits and waving to the girls, they let them have it. It was a sight to see. And then it happened.
They fired the gun.
They fired the gun. And the shot was so loud, it was heard clear around the world.
Oh, get out.
That's the way this country started. You read the book. What book?
Yeah, what book? Where did you get that story, Pa?
Oh, your history book.
My history book?
Sure. All kinds of good stories stuck in there amongst the history.
Yeah? Good as the one you just told us?
Sure. Some of them even better.
No fooling, Pa?
No fooling. You fellas look through that book, I bet you in a couple of weeks you'd be coming in here telling me stories.
Thank you for watching my movie on Paul Revere.